Hi, dear friends. This is BB Ukraine Analytics, the rubric Russia-Ukraine War Front Analytics with YEVHEN DYKYI, a war veteran military analyst, scientist, and the director of the National Antarctic Scientific Center. I am Olena Vostrova, and today we will analyze the current situation on the front line and further achievements of our armed forces in Crimea, precisely the explosions at Cape Fiolent, which is the continuation of the same systematic work our armed forces are doing to destroy the Russian air defense system in Crimea. So subscribe for our channel if you want to know all updates and insider information about Russia-Ukraine war directly from Ukraine. So, YEVHEN, let's start with the overview of the situation on the front line. How has it changed during these last days?
Принципово ніяк.
The situation, in fact, is developing, and it has been developing for the past several months. That's, we are pushing the Russian defense line and trying to exhaust the Russian reserves. In fact, there is a fight for who will run out of reserves first. And the Russians are already beginning to see, let's say, a certain shortage of personnel. They already have to expose some areas of the front to cover our breakthrough in other areas. And in fact, our main strategy is precisely to stretch their reserves, to make them take turns where the main battles take place. In recent days, our progress in the main direction to Tokmak has slowed down a little, because the Russians were able to quadruple the contingent defending this city in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Precisely because they also understand its strategic importance, no worse than we do. Once we take Tokmak, it will be impossible to stop us further on the way to the Sea of Azov. And this will mean, accordingly, the cutting off of Crimea, turning it into an island. And currently, of course, they are doing everything to prevent this from happening. So, a fourfold increased contingent is protecting Tokmak. But these people had to be taken in particular from Kupiansk. And therefore, in fact, the Russian offensive on this city was choked. In fact, in the north, we are on the defensive. The Russians formally continue to advance, but they have not made any really serious active advances in recent weeks, because there is no one left. The most combat-ready units has to be transferred to the south near Tokmak. And because they had to urgently transfer people to Tokmak, we managed to push them quite seriously on the southern flank from Bakhmut, where Klishchiivka and Andriivka are now completely under our control, and the front line currently runs along the railway line. It is just convenient to observe on the map. Where the railway passes, everything to the west of the railway is already under our complete control. Everything to the east is still controlled by them.
And now let's summarize what's happening in Crimea and how the explosions at Cape Fiolent that we saw on Monday morning are connected with all these operations of our armed forces.
Very important events took place in the past week around the Crimean Peninsula. In fact, last week and the week before last, a very powerful operation was carried out to gradually deploy the protective envelope around the peninsula. Like one peels an onion, we can say that we are currently peeling the sea and air defenses of the Crimean Peninsula in the same way, removing them layer by layer. What from the outside could look like just a few bright episodes is actually a completely systematic work. Its coordinator is the Defense Intelligence or the Ministry of the Defense of Ukraine, headed by Kyrylo Budanov. But very different divisions of the naval forces, air forces and special operations forces are involved. So, first, let's recall a very successful, in a Hollywood style and worthy of an adventure movie operation on the so-called Boyko Towers. Let's remind our viewers that these are oil rigs which since 2014 were used by Russia as an observation point and a point for refueling their helicopters. We even managed to win a trophy there, the latest model of the Russian radar station, which is already being studied by our specialists and specialists of allied countries. But the main thing is that without this radar, a hole has opened in the maritime defense of the peninsula. Through this hole, literally immediately after that, subversive groups entered the Tarkhankut Peninsula, and these groups destroyed one of the air defense complexes of the Crimea, the S-400 Triumph complex, and that's actually the last word of Russian technology in the field of the air defense. In principle, the Russians do not have anything better, of this S-400. So the S-400 complex was destroyed by a modified version of our Neptune anti-ship missile. It became finally clear that such a version already exists. This cruise missile was converted from an anti-ship missile to a surface-to-surface missile. And this rocket actually also passed through this corridor, which was opened before the attacks on the Boyko Towers and in Tarkhankut. A Neptune missile entered this corridor and destroyed this complex. And this has already opened a whole large sector in the Crimean sky, and our Air Force took advantage of this. The fact is that the best long-range weapons we currently have are the Storm Shadow missiles, or their French version Scalp. But still, they have a limitation. 280 kilometers. They don't fly further, and it is impossible to get the Sevastopol from our controlled territory. But after this complex S-400 Triumph was destroyed, the Crimean sky, one might say, became leaky, and our planes with the Storm Shadow flew from the sea to the peninsula at such a distance that allowed a direct aimed strike on Sevastopol. As a result of this strike, the large landing ship Minsk and the submarine Rostov-on-Don were destroyed. This is a very big blow to the Black Sea Fleet of Russia. Large amphibious ships are generally the largest ships the Russians have after the sinking of the cruiser Moskva. They have only 4 submarines, and they are used as the main carriers of the Kalibr missiles. Now there are 3 left. And by the way, this is a historical moment. For the first time in history, a submarine has been destroyed by a cruise missile. No one has ever done this before us. In this way, we see that what looked like just a few bright episodes was actually a completely systematic work during which the Crimean sky was opened little by little for this decisive blow on Sevastopol. And it seems the Russians have nothing to close this hole in the sky, because 3 other large amphibious ships were just urgently taken off from Sevastopol and moved to the Sea of Azov, which is considered, they think it's considered safe for now. That is, the Russians actually admitted that they cannot cover Sevastopol now. And well, in the end, not later than Monday morning, we saw the continuation of the same systematic work, the explosions on the Cape Fiolent. Very few details were reported about them. It was said that something was burning on the Cape Fiolent, but the fact is that only one Russian military unit is located there. This is the main military unit of the radio-electronic warfare of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. That's in fact the part that carries out radio-electronic suppression of our air drones and sea drones. Thus, we see that the Crimean sky and the Crimean Sea are now open to both air and sea drones. Let's see how soon it will be used. Soon enough, I think.
The head of the Defense Intelligence of Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Kyrylo Budanov, predicted that the armed forces of Ukraine would be able to cut off the land corridor to Crimea. It will happen before winter, he said.
Well, I really don't like this kind of prediction. I hope so myself. We all hope so, and the chances are quite high. But war is such a thing where chances are chances, and an already implemented operation is already implemented. When we do this, then we will tell about this.
That's all for today. Please write your comments right under this video. Give us your like and subscribe for our channel, the channel of top news, analytics and insights from Ukraine, about Ukraine and about Russia-Ukraine war. See you in the next videos.